Welcome to Psychology Today. I'm your host, Wayne Hathaway. Thank you for watching. Our show is about bicycling in general and bicycle safety specifically. I hope Psychology Today helps inspire you to ride a bike and helps you to be more mindful of safety. We try to celebrate those in our community that incorporate bicycling into career choices or entrepreneurial endeavors. Also, we strive to encourage others to ride or support bicycling and bike safety. Our producer, Northwest Bicycle Safety Council, is an organization that promotes safety and harmony between cyclists and works to strengthen our community and your families through cycling-related programs and events. In 2018, we found our volunteers placing free helmets on hundreds of local heads at various cycling-related events. Please learn more at our website. And a quick thank you to our capable crew behind the scenes. These volunteers make our show possible. And we have Rachel Saathoff here to share her story and how biking has impacted her personal experiences. We promote cycling and bike safety, but let's face it, riding a bike is part of a culture of just loving all things bicycle. So let's get started. So, welcome.
Thanks, Wayne.
How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Now that we got the intro out,
yes.
Now we're going to dive into you and tell us a little bit about yourself, how you came here, and what your biking history is, and anything else you want to say just at the beginning here.
Okay, so I am, for a job, I am a corporate leadership and team development coach, and I started cycling about 2.5 years ago. This is my third season this year, and now I have started incorporating cycling into my business and working with kids as well. So, but I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, right on. All right. So I'm going to actually go into my cheat sheet a little bit, and so you told us a little bit. So 3 years about your that's your cycling experience.
Yeah, this is my third summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what got you into it in the beginning?
I've always wanted to get into cycling. A friend of mine and I went to coffee, and she had finished an Ironman the summer before, and it was spring, and she was kind of talking to me a little bit about it, and I was like, you know, I wanna ride, but I don't have a bike. Like, that's a big investment. You know, I had all the excuses in the world, and she is in a PhD program, and she was like, great, so I can't ride my bike right now, so you can just borrow my bike, and you can ride before you make the investment, and ride for a couple months on it. If you like it, buy your own bike. And that's how I got into it.
And so you did.
Yeah.
Now, did you ride by yourself after that interaction, or did you?
No, I signed up for Reach the Beach, and because I had heard about that ride, and a friend of mine's company, she's had said, a different friend of mine, her company rides as a team every year. So she had said, like, come ride with us. It'll be amazing. And I signed up. I went to the Reach the Beach kickoff party, and that's where I met the Portland Wheelmen, which is my bike club. Uh-huh. And I started training with them, and then started fundraising. And when it was ride time for Reach the Beach, I asked my friend, like, so how many people from your company are going to be riding? And she was like, actually, it's just you.
Oh, wow.
So
you were stranded.
I was the only one. But fortunately, I'd made friends riding with my bike club, and was able to ride with them.
And how did you pick up, so you mentioned the Wheelmen in other groups, how did you pick up the rules of the road? How did you learn, like, the right way to be in a group?
So they just taught me along the way. I literally knew nothing. I knew how to get on the bike, I knew how to pedal, and I kind kind of knew how to stop, but I didn't know anything about using my gears or anything. And we had ridden an organized ride together, and two of the wheelmen, one was in front of me and the other one was behind me, and they were just saying, try this, click up, click down, how does that feel? Okay, like click up 2 more, click up 3 more, try this. Is this easier? Is it harder? This is what it would feel like. Is this what you're experiencing? If not, adjust it. And just working with them on that first metric century, it taught me so much about the bike and helped me get comfortable with the bike. And then I just started practicing more on my own and rode the Reach the Beach Century for the first time.
So you get this, I'm going to go back to getting the bike from your friend.
Yeah.
So then did you equip yourself with other things, or did you get all of it, like the helmet, and did you have to fit on the bike better or differently?
Yeah.
Or?
I got the basics. The bike was too big for me, and I knew it would be too big for me because she's around 5'6", and I'm 5'3", and I have a really short inseam. So I knew it was big on me, but I was like, it's a bike. You know, at that time I didn't really know any different, so I just kind of rode it. I got the basics, like a helmet and gloves and shoes. I think that was it. And I just started riding. Like the bare basics. I think I got a super cheap helmet too, like $50 or something like that. Super cheap.
How about, like, so you hadn't been on a bike. Did you have to get over a certain amount of fear, or was there any intimidation factor, or did you just do it?
Oh yeah, clipping in was like terrifying because you're like stuck in the bike, and you know there were times where I fell over, maybe in public too.
I never have. I did.
Where you fall over and there's like other people watching you, judging you, and you know that they're judging you, and then you try not to do it again because that was super embarrassing. And so you just kind of keep going.
Had you done other, so we talked a little bit before we started the show, you've done other sports before you've done biking, right?
Yeah.
So did any of that help you get into the bike part, or did it not translate at all?
I think other pieces of it helped me be an endurance rider, just that mental mind game of being able to do it. But as for did soccer really help me on the bike, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like soccer and snow skiing and stuff like that, like I'm sure just having physical strength was helpful, but you know, biking is a sport all in its own. Like it's completely different than swimming or snowboarding or skiing or any of those things.
How about, so the events that you prefer the most, I heard you say endurance.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you prefer? Something a lot longer than your typical 20-mile bike ride, or?
Yeah, I'm definitely an endurance rider. I like to push myself. You know, I've done the STP ride, I've done the RSVP ride, so I've pretty much rode the whole state of Washington. And every time I do one of those, they're super hard. Like, it's not an easy thing. But the gratification I think that you feel at the end is crazy, because you're like, I just rode my bike for 16 hours. I rode my bike 204 miles. That's crazy. And just that feeling of accomplishment of, if I can do that, I can do anything, kind of mentality makes everything else, I think, in life a little bit easier.
And how do you fuel for something like that? That's a lot of riding.
Yeah.
And so you have to get hungry.
Yes. Well, I always tell people, make sure to carry money in your saddlebag. So I always have a spare 20 and some food of some kind in my saddlebag in case of emergency. But, you know, having rest stops and stuff like that, you just try to eat as much as you can. If there's a rest stop that has specific things that I like, then I might stock up on those and put them in the back of my jersey. And so then I kind of look like a little chipmunk with all my storage. But, you know, I always tell people, there's no guarantee that this snack will be at the next place. So if you like it, get more of it and then keep going.
Did you, in order to do that, did you experiment a little bit on what would work and what wouldn't work, or did you just go like,
no.
I'm gonna get whatever, figure it out?
I'm just gonna get whatever and figure it out. You know, I'd asked a couple friends of mine that were runners that I said, you know, are power bars or like these kind of energy bars really good for me. And they suggested other things like figs and different things, but at the end of the day, like the friend who was helping me is an ultra marathoner, so he's ran 100-mile races, and so he knows this kind of stuff. And he said at the end of the day, everybody is going to be different, so figure out what works for your body and then try to get that and make sure you have enough of that.
Okay, so tell me, when you're doing your training, do you also incorporate fun rides rather than always out there grinding or?
Yeah, absolutely. Fun rides, that's what it's all about. I don't like to climb that much. So I like to do faster, flatter rides preferably, or kind of a mixed terrain, but I like going different places and trying new things, and riding with my bike club allows me to do some of that. And then I have my own kind of biker friends that ride in Bethany, which is the area that we live in, and so we'll just post on Facebook like, hey, let's meet here, and then whoever can come, and we will sometimes have a plan and go out to like Hag Lake or something like that, and sometimes we'll just ride and see where it takes us.
So you're part of the Wheelmen now, and so how often do you ride with them?
Not often enough. Unfortunately, last year I experienced a concussion in May. I was in a bike accident. Okay. And so I rode during the summer, and unfortunately that was not a very good decision of mine. I got really sick, and so this winter really limited me in what I was able to do. But I'm glad to say that I'm feeling a lot better now, and rode last weekend for the first time. We did 21 miles, and it felt really good, and I felt strong, and I'm ready for this season.
So let's go into the concussion since you brought it up.
Yeah.
So what happened?
I was riding with a friend, and we were out at the Banks to Vernonia Trail. And if you're not familiar with that, they've got a set of pretty sharp switchbacks. And a friend of mine and I were riding side by side, and we got to the switchbacks, and I said, hey, I'm going to pull forward and go down them. And it was a spring day during that time. I think it was like April or May, early May, something like that. It had recently rained, and I was pulled ahead of my friend a little bit. And as I was going through the switchback, she started yelling at me, saying, I don't have my brakes. I'm going to hit you. I'm so sorry. And when your friend says that to you, your life flashes before you a little bit. And, there's not much you can do. And we collided, and I flew off my bike fairly far, and I hit my head. I knocked the wind out of myself. I got back up. I thought I was okay, and apparently I was not.
And even, so when you fell, you felt okay to get back on the bike, and so you did?
Yeah, so I rode like 40 miles that day, even after I rode where those switchbacks are. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, so we rode to Vernonia, got some coffee at a coffee shop, went into the bathroom, realized I had road rash all over my leg. Knew that there was not really an Uber option when you're in Vernonia.
Sure.
And so I, like a lot of people with concussions, thought I was fine and thought I was okay to keep riding. And I rode the 20 or 30 miles back, and that was not a real great decision.
And then, so that you finished that ride, and from the time that you finished, when was like your next workout?
I did a bunch of small workouts, and then a couple weeks later I had the Reach the Beach, I did a century, which is the 104-mile ride for Reach the Beach, and I struggled on that one. I finished it, but I struggled, and I thought, this shouldn't be this hard. I'm not in that much worse conditioning as I was last summer. It shouldn't be this hard, but I just cracked it up to being, maybe it's an off day. Maybe I'm just bonking today. And because I could feel it in the first 2 legs of that ride. I was like, I'm tired. I don't know if I can do this today. But I had mental endurance and I just kept going and I finished. But it was hard.
And then how long did it take before you really knew that something was up?
So throughout the summer, I'm in a master's program, plus I work, so I thought I was just tired. And I kept riding. I rode cycle Oregon class or weekender, and I was tired, and I couldn't figure out why I was so tired, and kept riding other rides. Somebody invited me to do the RSVP ride, which is the Seattle to Vancouver, BC. It's a 2-day, 187-mile ride. And it just happened to be between terms for my master's program, so I was like, "Great, I'm gonna ride that." And
just a little ride.
That was a rough ride. Fortunately, I was with a good friend of mine, but that first day, I didn't think I was going to be able to ride the next day, and I made it to the sleeping spot, and I slept it off. I woke up the next morning. I was like, I feel a little better, I'll just try to see how far I can go. If I can't make it, I'll sag. Rode the rest of it and, came home. And when I got home, that's really when the side effects of the concussion, the post-concussion is what they call it, really hit me.
Yeah. And so when you started to, this was, how many months are we talking about?
So I think I got the initial concussion in late April, May. So, and then RSVP, I believe, is in September. So it'd been a while.
It'd been months.
Yeah.
And then did you go seek some professional?
Yeah, I thought I had a brain tumor.
Oh,
and
boy.
so I had gone to a work event, and I was at the event, and I just had this out-of-body experience where I knew I was here and I knew somebody was talking to me, like you're talking to me, but I couldn't understand what they were saying. It was that wah, 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 like that cartoon kind of feeling, and it scared me. And I was kind of touching my skin, and where I was touching and where I could feel were not the same. So I would touch here, and it would feel like I was touching closer to my wrist.
Oh, wow,
and so I kept kind of pushing on different areas, but my skin felt very numb. Went home after that event and went to sleep. The next morning I woke up and I realized I'd been pushing so hard on my skin that I'd give myself bruises.
Really?
And that's when I knew something was really wrong. And I had really dry eye symptoms, so I went to a naturopath doctor. She thought it was maybe nutritional from the ride, started changing my diet, went to my regular primary care physician. They were like, "We don't know what's wrong with you." Went to an eye doctor to talk about my eyes. They gave me a new eyeglasses prescription to see if it was that. And then I went to my massage therapist, talked to her about it, and she was like, let's try and see if we can relax the body a little bit, and over time maybe it'll help. And then I finally went to my fifth provider, which was an acupuncturist, and he was doing that eye thing where follow my finger kind of thing.
Right.
And he saw a twitch in my eye, so he got to a certain point where my eyes went like this. And he was and then he looked at me and he said, "Have you hit your head recently?" And I said, yeah. And I was like, define recently.
Yeah.
And he's like, in the last 2 years. And I said, yeah, I got in a bike accident in May. And that's when he diagnosed me and he said, "I think you have a post-concussion." And started seeking treatment in November
Of last year.
And so it had been May, June, July, August, September, October, 7 months before I realized what was actually wrong with me.
Okay. And then in recovery mode, once you know now, did you stay doing treatments that helped?
Yeah, so I started continuing working with him, continually working with the rest of my medical team, saw a neurologist, talked with him about kind of what's going on, why is this lasting so long. He didn't really have a great answer for why it was lasting so long either. He said, considering your athletic history in the past, it sounds like you might have had concussions as a kid. And with every concussion, it takes longer and longer for it to heal. And this one just seems to be a really bad one that wasn't treated for a really long time. And thus, it's going to take you a long time to get better. And I was off work for 2.5 months-ish.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So now you're on the other side of it.
Now I'm on the other side of it. Thank you. Thank
Which is
goodness.
great.
Yes.
It's great that you're all right.
Yes.
If looking back at it, like, can you help the viewers with, how you might approach that differently?
Yeah. I would just say take any head blow seriously. Don't try to power through it. Don't try to be strong. If you hit your head, go to the doctor. Talk to them about it. If you start experiencing anything, stop. Like, if you need sleep, sleep. If you need food, eat it. Take care of your body. Your body's your temple. You only get one of them. And for me, it was a really humbling experience, because when your brain doesn't work and you can't go to work and you can't do school and you can't do anything, then it feels very depressing. It feels like I will never be the same again. And that's a dark, lonely place. And I wish I would have taken care of it and listened to it earlier than have waited so long to the point where it physically stopped me from doing things.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. That's a good lesson learned. We're not going to go right into a break, but we are going to go in a few minutes. I'm going to warn us all. What I wanted to ask you about training, do you do anything other than bike to stay fit, but to contribute to what you're doing for bike? Yeah,
so on occasion I do spin class, and I swim laps in the pool, which I like doing that. It's a great kind of cross-training activity for me. And then, every now and again I just go do something fun, play kickball, play soccer. I don't know, try to go golfing at different places, but I'm terrible at golf.
It's still fun though, as long as you have patience.
Yes, I'm terrible at golf, but yeah.
Right on. Okay, well, let's take a quick break.
Okay.
And then when we come back, we're going to talk about some other things, some cool things that you're doing in the cycling arena.
Great.
So,
thanks.
Okay.
Skull, dome, melon, nut. No matter what you call your head, I think we can all agree it's worth protecting, right?
Yeah!
When you're doing something cool like riding a bike, you'll find that hazards are everywhere. From car doors to gravel on the street, to dogs crossing your path. Yeah, even the cute ones. Crashes can happen, even to those with awesome biking skills. In a fight between your head and the pavement always wins. So it makes sense to protect your skull and the valuable gray matter inside by wearing a certified helmet. Think you look like a dork? No way. There are plenty of cool looking helmets out there with tons of styles and colors to choose from. There's downhill and BMX helmets, mountain bike helmets, road helmets, and racing helmets. Whatever style you choose, just make sure it's for the kind of riding you're doing and that it's safety certified. Visit any good bike shop or sporting goods store if you're unsure what kind of helmet you need. They'll have people there to help you make the right choice. Even a certified helmet has to fit right to work properly. So when picking your size, make sure it doesn't wobble around or fall off when you nod yes or shake no, even when the straps are undone. Some helmets come with extra pads you can attach or a nifty crank to help you get dialed in. See? So once you've found the right helmet that fits you, remember the 2v1 rule. With your helmet sitting level on your head, you should have no more than 2 fingers between your eyebrows and the bottom of the helmet. The side strap should form a V shape just below your ears. Adjust the chin strap so only 1 finger fits under there. Like so. When you open your mouth wide like this, the helmet should still feel comfortable. Taking care of your new helmet is easy. Just keep it in a cool, dry place, away from excessive heat or direct sunlight. That's bad for the foamy stuff that protects your brain box. Clean off any grossness with a mild cleaner like dish soap and warm water. A certified helmet will last 3 to 5 years, but after that, it's time to get a new one. And if you have a crash or there are any visible signs of damage, your helmet is officially toast. There are no accidents, only crashes, but nobody has one on purpose. So protect your brains and wear a helmet when you ride. This important message is brought to you by Can Bike Manitoba, the Manitoba Cycling Association, and the Manitoba government. Have fun. Ride safely.
All right, we're back with Rachel Saathoff. We're going to talk, I want to dive into this new area that you shared with me, with the Reach the Beach and a group that you're helping to achieve that.
Yeah.
So can you go into that?
Yeah, so I started a youth cycling team in Beaverton. It's called We Endure, for like endurance riding and enduring hardships and the mental and physical game that cycling plays on you. And so we have some kiddos, variety of different ages. I think one is in 6th grade and one is a sophomore in high school that are training to do the Reach the Beach. And so we're gonna do the 55, which is just shy of a metric century, with them, and they're super excited because the 6th grader, the furthest he's ridden is like 37 miles, and then the sophomore in high school, before last weekend, the furthest he had ridden was 8 miles, and then last weekend we rode just shy of 21. So he did really great.
And did they come with their own bikes?
Yeah, they came with
So
their
they
own
already
bikes.
had them.
Yeah, so the 6th grader I helped him get his bike last season. So he'd been riding a mountain bike, and I had worked with a friend of mine who's a bike mechanic to find a used bike for him. And it's a road bike, so he has an aluminum Cannondale bike that he's growing quickly out of, but it's a really great bike. And then the sophomore in high school, he has a hybrid bike, and so they just put some road tires on it, and so it's aluminum, I believe. It's pretty heavy, but man, he's young and he's fast, so I need that heavy weight as a disadvantage for him.
Right on. How did they find out that you were offering this?
Yeah, it's springtime and parents were putting things like advertisements up on social media and kind of saying, hey, is there any bike clubs? Is there anything that people are doing? And with the 6th grader, I was already planning to train with him. I had told him last year that I would help him train for Reach the Beach this year. And there were other kids on local social media things and that were wanting to ride. So I just kind of held a information night at a coffee shop, and I said, hey, if your kids are interested in riding, come out. I think we had like 6 families come out, and some of the kids weren't equipped enough to ride. They weren't old enough. Some of them were pretty young, and not saying that young riders can't ride that far. They just didn't have enough experience to be able to truly train for something that's 55 miles. Like
Sure.
55 miles is pretty far away for a little kid. And some of the parents weren't able or willing to kind of make the time commitment that it takes to train for something like that. Your kid needs to be on their bike 2 to 3 times a week. They need to be able to have a weekend day committed to long rides, because sometimes those can take anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, depending on how far you're going. So, yeah.
How did you, so when the 2 that you have, so there's 2 that are training, how did you build their endurance? Did you do it pretty classic?
Yeah, so one of them has been kind of riding all summer, and he's on swim team at one of the local high schools. So he's been in good shape, rides to school every day, and has just kind of been training. Last week was our first group ride together. And then the other one has been training for a 15K running. And so he's been doing that. And I set him up with a bike trainer that he can pedal at home with. And he's been going to a local athletic club and doing the youth spin class there as well. So they're working on it. And so by the time they come to me on the Saturday morning rides, we're just working on fine-tuning, form, making sure they have all the correct equipment. And then there's a big learning component as well. They're learning how to ride as a team. They're learning what it means to, be a leader, and why being a leader is important to the art of cycling, and how cycling is or can be a very team sport. And so they're learning all about that. Plus they're also learning basic bike maintenance, how to take care of your bike, take care of your chain, how to make small tune-ups to your gears or your brakes, or making sure that your helmet fits correctly, and how to change a flat, because I'm not going to do that for them on the road.
Right.
They get a flat, they get to learn how to do it.
Have they had flats on the road? On any
Not yet. Not with me yet, but this weekend we'll be out at Hag Lake, and from 9 to 9:30 we're going to learn how to change a flat, and then we'll be on the road. And so, obviously when they get their first flat, I or one of my sweep riders will be there, and we'll be encouraging them, but the expectation will be that they learn how to change that flat on their own.
So not everybody out there, why'd you do this? What was it that motivated you to help these kids?
Yeah, I love kids, and I love cycling, and riding with kids is a great motivator to get me out on my bike too. I'm much less willing to cancel on a child that wants to go riding with me than an adult that wants to go riding with me. And and cycling is a sport that people can grow with. You see old men and women that are in their 70s or 80s still riding their bikes. And, if we can teach these kids how to ride their bikes safely on the roads, it could be something that definitely is not only healthy for them, but they can age with.
Can you tie in, you talked a little bit about teaching leadership and team. Can you kind of share how you help them see that and promote that during the training? Yeah,
absolutely. A lot of people see biking as an individual sport because it's just you and your bike. Right? But anytime you do a group type setting where you're riding with others, you need to be able to know how to lead. You need to be able to know how to be a sweep. And, we ride as fast as the slowest rider. And you need to know how to be able to call out different things on the road so that other people understand, there's a hole there's a car, tuck in, there's a car on the left, there's a car on the right, there's a car coming from the back. All of those pieces of just communicating and working with your team, they all come from the back up or the front back as things are happening to the team. And when one party messes up, we hope that the whole team doesn't crash. But, sometimes that happens. And so really teaching the kids to work together and be accountable to those things.
Do you have any, this is kind of ad hoc, do you have any stories about rides that you've done with the kids that, just resonate with you that you really enjoyed?
We did the Monster Cookie ride last year, and if you have kids, you got to do the Monster Cookie ride. Have you been on the Monster Cookie ride?
I have not been on the Monster Cookie ride.
So the Monster Cookie ride is out in Salem, and it's run by the Salem Bike Club, and it's amazing for families and kids. They have the family ride, and then they have a metric century as well. But the best part of it is you get cookies at every single rest stop. And then at the end, you get a gigantic cookie after you've eaten. So I think when my friend's 6th grader rode with us last year, I think by the time he was done, he ate like 15 cookies.
Oh, boy.
He was so happy. I was like, please don't tell your mother.
That's funny.
And he was so happy. And so, any time that you can kind of take something that the kids are passionate about and combine it with something else they're passionate about and be able to provide an opportunity for them, I think is really rewarding.
That's great. So where do you see this going? Like, you've got this Reach the Beach. What's after that? You must...
For me or for the kids?
Both.
Both?
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, I have a bucket list like most people. So one thing that's on the bucket list is the Cycle Oregon Classic, which is in September. And so this year it's at Crater Lake. And so I hope to be healthy enough and in good enough shape to be able to ride the week-long event. So for me, that's for me. For the kids, you know, I hope that they continue to ride throughout the summer with me. You know, it doesn't just stop after Reach the Beach, and I hope we can attract other kids into the sport of cycling and be able to really create something special for them.
And for maybe young riders that are not riding yet, they're considering it and they're hearing this, or somebody else is hearing this, what would you say to them to get them that next step further?
I'd say give it a shot. Try it. See if you like it, you know. Try it for more than one weekend. And that's the kids that did sign up for my program. I said, ride for the 3 months. If you like it, great. We'll continue. If you don't like it, that's okay. But give it some time. Learn the bike. Just like any sport, just like soccer or karate or any sport. It takes time. In the first few weeks, you're going to suck at it. And it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
But give it the time it deserves to then be able to ride an event. And the kids, once they finish that event, they feel so accomplished that they're like, I can do this again. And it builds that extra tier of confidence in them, and they become, you know, once they have that extra confidence in them, then you're like, oh, look at you doing the things that we've been talking about, and you're actually implementing them now. And it's like one of those things that just clicks. You talk about it 10 times, and then they actually have to perform, and they start doing it, and you step back, and you're like, you are listening to me.
Wow, that's so awesome.
So, yeah, they're amazing.
Do you get feedback from the parents as to like what they see as a difference or something that, you know, a result of this training? Or?
Absolutely. And, you know, the cycling program is new, but I have a youth leadership program that I run as well that's completely apart from the cycling program. And absolutely, I've gotten a ton of feedback from those parents as to them seeing an increase in confidence in their child, an increase of willingness to speak up and share their opinions and, you know, work and collaborate with others. And that's what I hope to see from my cycling kids as well.
So we're gonna stay with the kids. One of the things I'm thinking about is when you're out on doing training rides, are there specific areas that you try to stick to that are maybe lower traffic?
Yeah, absolutely. As the kids are just kind of getting comfortable with riding on a team, as well as I'm getting comfortable riding with them. Last weekend we did Savi's Island. It's a loop. You know, there are cars out there, but there's fewer cars than if we were to ride in the main parts of Beaverton. Go out to Hillsborough. There's a lot of country roads as well. There's less bike lanes in Hillsborough, but there seems to be less congestion out there as well.
Right on.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to say about this that you're doing?
Yeah, you know, I told my families biking is a family sport. So if you have a kiddo that wants to give it a try, like, come out and do it with them. Like, it doesn't have to just be they go to soccer practice, they go to cycling. Like, mom and dad, you can come out and you can do this sport with them too. And that's the incredible piece of it is, you know, I can teach them how to cycle and ride and be safe so that when you guys go out as a family, you're not worrying about having to try to teach them those things. And like the 6th grader, his mom says, every child has that person that they listen to and the information sticks. For him, Rachel, that's you. And so if you tell him to make sure he signals on his bike left and right and stop, he'll listen. If I try to do that, he won't listen. But then when he comes back to do it with me, then he's excited to tell me about what he's learned and to teach me what he's learned so that he can make sure that I'm riding safe. And so it's just a way to really bring that whole art full circle. And it's something that, you know, riding a bike is something anybody can do. Doesn't matter how old you are. I've seen old men and women ride bikes way faster than me. And then I've seen young people ride bikes way faster than me. So, you know, it's a sport for everyone.
Okay. Well, what I want to do is I want to take a short break, and then we'll come back and we'll do a little more discussion about everything we've talked about. And so let's do that really quick. right, we're back with Rachel.
Oh.
Let's talk. So I want to go back to training.
Okay.
Because everybody has busy lives. And so one of the things that I like to come back to and was asked me when I was a guest here was, how do you find time? How do you find time to train?
How do I find time to train? I don't even know. I just try to find small pockets in the day. And, you know, as long as I try to keep my stuff with me as much as possible and just find little opportunities, even if it's, you know, go out for 45 minutes to an hour on a lunch break. I've done that with friends. I'm very much a social rider, so I don't like to go out by myself, but if somebody else is going to go with me, that's great. So some of my corporate friends, they get an hour-long lunch break, and so I'll be like, hey, you want to go do 45 minutes on the bike during your lunch break? And I've done that. Some of my friends get random pockets in the day, and because I'm an entrepreneur, sometimes I can go with them. And sometimes I go to spin class and just try to find different pockets of the day. What about you? Let's turn the tables back on you, and now it's my turn to interview you.
Okay. You said that you were going to do this during the break, so I knew it was coming. It's the same thing. What I'll say about it is I had to change the way I think about the amount of time I had to train. And what I mean by that is I couldn't think in extremes or black and white. I had to think in, do I have time right now? And if it's 45 minutes, great. If it's 30 minutes, great. If it's an hour and 5 minutes, great. But I couldn't be rigid about the way I was going to approach it. And that opened up all sorts of times that I could find to actually train.
What kind of riding do you like to do? Do you do mostly road? Do you do a mixture of different types of riding?
Yeah, so I started all road. Before that, I had a little experience doing mountain riding on a mountain bike, and that was all recreational. But as soon as I went road, I went all in, and I stayed road for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then a friend of mine who actually was on the show a couple times ago, he helped encourage me to do a little bit of off-road, more gravel.
Okay.
He's a cyclocross. I have not joined one of those races, but it was fun and challenging.
Cool. What kind of rides do you have in your future for this year?
Well, okay.
Not to peer pressure
That's
you or
like
anything.
a loaded question.
What's in your future this year for the road?
So I, my history, which we've talked about, this is not supposed to be about me, Rachel, but was triathlon, and so I did a lot of rides that way. That's how I picked my events. I took a break, and because it was time to take a break. And I recently have I can feel it. The bug is back to get out on the road. And I think I don't have any on my radar right now. But if I were to go back in, I loved triathlon, so I will still pick events that way. But I think in order to not reach that point where I got before, where I had to take a break, I'll probably mix it up with other group rides. Because that's one of the things you talked about that I really appreciate is that social aspect.
Yeah.
And you can do that running, which I've done. But riding, there's something about going out there and experiencing the outdoors and being able to talk with a friend of yours while you're riding that it makes it worth it.
Yeah. What do you think led to your burnout?
That's hard to answer. I think, it started to become work rather than fun. And it's funny, I don't want to get melodramatic. It was, it was just doing too much and not putting enough fun into it, not putting enough recovery into it. And so I think what was good about it was I reached a point where I thought it's okay to take a break. And So, you know, you learn from everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Are there any triathlons that you've done or heard of that you would suggest, either for somebody that's doing it brand new or even for my kids?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So the first triathlon I ever did, I did it way before I actually got into the sport of triathlon, but it was Blue Lake, and it's really it's a start of season triathlon here in Oregon. It's in end of May, and they've got, you know, the shortest triathlon is a sprint that they have, which is really reasonable in terms of the distances. The swim, I can't remember exactly, but it's less than a mile swim. I think it's maybe even less than half. And then you're doing about, I think it's a 20K on the bike, so you're doing about 10 miles, and then it's a 5K at the end. And just the atmosphere there is for, you know, the experience level just is wide. So it just felt like a really comfortable place to start. And when I first did that triathlon, I did it on a mountain bike, and it was just a great experience. It didn't matter, and I was just happy to do it. And, you know, even, you know, the fact that I was racking my bike, probably the last biker in, because I was on that, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It was just the fact that I was doing it and that I was out there.
Yeah. So what was your first road bike?
Oh, my first road bike was, it was awesome. It was this aluminum frame, Specialized, and, you know, it was another thing where, you know, I had it, and I had the bug, and I knew, well, because I had the bike, I was just going to go all in. And so as soon as I had that...
Once you have the bike, man.
Yeah, you just go all in. Like I didn't want it to collect dust in the garage, and so I got on that bike every single day. And through the winter I rode. And it does not rain as much as people think here in Oregon. I learned that when I got out on the bike, and even if it is raining, you can go to where it's not raining here. So,
is that so? I like that excuse, though.
And what I will say, this is the other thing, that it's not the bike, actually. A lot of my own misconception was that I needed a better bike. My best ride, my fastest ride was on that bike. And so it's really the engine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What advice would you give a new, young, thirsty rider?
Good question. I would say, you know, start slow. That's one of the things. I made the mistake of thinking I had these unrealistic expectations, and so I went out too big, and then it humbled me. And so start slow and get out there, and you know. And anytime, like you asked me what my next, you asked me if I was going to be, for your next ride, what's it called? The person that's going to bring up the rear.
Yeah.
And I came up with an excuse. Well, don't have them. Just get out on the bike. And,
so you're going to come out with us this weekend, huh?
I told you about my bike. So, and I think we're getting pretty close to the end here. So we've got 2 minutes, so I'm going to do the wrap up.
Okay.
But I want to thank you for coming on.
Yes, thank
it
you
has
for
been
having
great.
me.
And I'm waiting for that monitor. So we're going to go 2 more minutes. Ask me another question.
Does your son like to ride? You have a son, right?
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
He actually did a triathlon.
Oh, awesome. How old is he?
He is 12 now, and he did it when he was 10. And he loved it, man. He got so serious. I mean, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. He did it. Where was it? I think it was part of Blue Lakes. I think it was the later summer one, because they do 2 out there. And so he got real serious about the swim, and then in his transition he was struggling, and he got super mad. But I just loved watching him out there. Yeah. And since then, you know, we've got him a bike, and he and I go out on rides together, and I love it. You know, it's great to be able to spend that time with him and to see him enjoy it. And
well, I think you're proof that cycling truly is a family sport.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
Because so not only does he have a bike, My wife actually picked up road riding, and she really enjoys it, and she got her friends, so she's influenced them. So it is just a great social activity that everybody can participate in. That, between running and biking, and I like both those sports. Biking is just something that I think is just a lifestyle that you can have forever. So that's what I really, really like about it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah. One more question.
Have you got a bike fit, and where did you get a bike fit?
Oh, yeah, Portland Bike Studio. I got fit by Molly there, and it was the best investment I made for a bike.
Cool.
Not only was Molly great, but the fit just really supported, especially for the longer rides, so that I didn't develop any repetitive motion type injuries.
That's great.
Which can be common.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
Yeah, I would highly recommend that if any of the shops really offer bike fits.
Yeah, that's
but
awesome.
Portland Bike Studio.
Yeah. Awesome. I did one through a physical therapist that's local here in Beaverton, and she's a triathlete as well. And so for me, it was amazing. And now I go back and do PT with her for any injuries or any aches or pains that I might have endured, whether it's from biking or other things.
Right on.
And so, yeah, big believer in the bike fit as well. So,
yep.
Awesome.
Good. Well, we are going to wrap up now. So thank you very much, Rachel,
Yes.
for coming on the show and joining us here on Psychology Today. We also thank the viewers for joining us tonight. And then we also want to give a shout out to the Northwest Bicycle Safety Council, which promotes safe riding both by obeying the laws and by riding with a level of skill. And you can visit the Portland Wheelman Touring Club to learn more on their website about rides for the year. There are many slow and easier rides to help you test the cycling waters and bring your bike and a helmet. And by riding with others, which we talked about tonight, you can increase your skill and learn new routes, learn to ride in groups, learn about other rides and events, and make new friends, and please investigate. And just to start out, set some little goals and let other cyclists help you attain them. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And that's the end.